Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's a wonderful Wednesday evening. I hope it is. It might be morning, might be night. Sometimes I get really confused on this whole, time of day thing. Anyway, so here's this thing. Let's get this music turned down a bit, because that's obnoxious. That's really loud. Alright. You guys don't need to try to, fight to hear me over the sound of music. What? That's crazy talk. Anyway, we have a special topic tonight, similar to something we already talked about, but we're going to get into a very niche topic of something we already talked about before. Previously, we talked about games marketing, which kind of is its own niche, if you will. Tonight, we are going to talk about deceptive advertising as a whole. And essentially kind of some things you can look for. The topic is very broad. So deceptive advertising covers a huge amount of ground. It is very difficult to encapsulate it in an hour of talking. This is months of research that someone would have to do to scratch the surface on it. There's companies that spend billions of dollars studying ways to essentially be deceptive. And to the point where one might even say that just advertising in general at its core is designed to be deceptive, which I'm not sure I agree with that much. That seems a little heavy-handed, if you will. But overall, advertising can very quickly and very easily become deceptive to some degree or another. So what we're going to kind of get on here first is I've got this great little guy here, this little infographic that I found from financeonline.com, and it was talking about, it's a little infographic about deceptive advertising. And of course we get the hamburger ads, right? These are world famous of what is advertised to you and what you actually get. They did make a little bit of a mistake on one of those. It's not far off. They just kind of made a little bit of an error on there. But obviously, none of the burgers or anything look remotely like what you see in the pictures. And those pictures are everywhere, right? And oh yeah, the pictures on the outside of soups and cookies. Well, you can make cookies like that, but Milka cookies definitely don't look like that. Point is that there are a lot of deceptions when it comes to advertising, because you want to make what you're selling look as good as possible for the people that are buying it. And to a point, it's not unlike, say a woman or a guy or anybody wearing makeup in order to kind of make themselves appear more attractive to, people that they're interacting with. There's nothing necessarily wrong with accentuating your best features, right? That's not a bad thing. It's when things kind of get a little bit out of hand. And there's little photo tricks this guy touches on, like how you can Photoshop out a giant steam stack behind there, or wide angle shots to make it look like that your pool is more tropical, and so on. And of course models. It even touches on makeup and airbrushing and Photoshop tricks. There's a ton, especially when you get into photography. A lot of professional photography gets kind of crazy with how much they touch stuff up. This is the craziest part about it, is that of 47% of Americans in the United States find advertising to be fairly honest. 39% find it to be fairly dishonest, which I feel like that category, that 39%, is probably the most realistic segment on there, because it is fairly dishonest in a lot of ways. It's not always complete lies and utter distruths and what have you. But I find it very fascinating that Americans just instinctively trust what they're being told, which is kind of unfortunate. And that's, I guess, if Americans or other people didn't blindly trust what they're told all the time, then I guess I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys, because there would be no need for me to explain things to you, because you would probably have already gone out and researched it yourself. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, you know, wouldn't hurt you to research things that you claim. Moving on then. So there are actually very clearly covered, established, already well-known and litigated against forms of deceptive advertising. These are actually ones that you can take to court and sue the company and have the FTC file an injunction in some cases over a product that is very falsely advertised. These are classics. Many of you may already be aware of them, but they're very, very well known. They've been around for a long time. So we have price deception, which is where you are not you're not told the full price of the product up front. And to be honest with you, I feel like that this is well encapsulated by car sales. So you see a car advertisement and it has big bold letters that this new car costs $12,995. Excuse me, not thousand. They'll say $12,995. Little subtlety in the car advertisements, when they talk about the rebates you're getting back, they say thousands. Really heavily accentuated. But when they're talking about the price, the money that it's going to cost you, they don't use that word. They skip out of thousand, because psychologically it makes you think that you're spending less than you are. So they'll say the price is $12,995, but your rebate is $3,000. Watch that. If you hear a car ad on the radio or you see one on TV, watch for that. Dead serious. You'll find it happens almost every time they do that. When they name the price, they'll not say thousands, but if they name a rebate or cash back or some kind of deal, some kind of benefit to you, they'll really stretch out that word thousands, so you makes it sound as big as possible. Anyway, car dealing and in general car sales to me is an area that seems to get away with a lot of price deception. Because when you hear that price, $12,995, right? Then you go in and you buy the car, and somehow when it's all said and done, it ends up being $24,000 or $19,000, and you're like, the hell? How did this end up being almost double the advertised price? That makes no sense. Well, because there's this fee and that fee and the dealer doc fees, and the way they get away with it is they do disclose that there are additional fees. They disclose that there are additional fees, but they don't disclose exactly how much those fees are, which that's where I have the problem. Is there should be clear disclosure that, yeah, you're looking at, you know, several $1,000s worth of fees tacked on top of the price you're already paying. So that's one of the areas where you really see price deception, is where you are advertised a certain price, you get in there, and then they have additional things they tack on top that they didn't disclose to you. The next guy that we're talking about on here is bait and switch. Many of you are familiar with this practice. It's more or less advertising a certain product, and then essentially whenever someone tries to get that product, you don't have it, but you have something else that you can buy instead that's a higher price, usually significantly higher price. We're not talking about dollars or pennies. We're talking about, like, you go to a store and try to buy a video game for $30, and they say, well, we don't have that video game, but we have this other video game for $60. That could be seen as a bait and switch, and that's very highly illegal if they advertise one product to you, and when you get there they don't have it and they try to sell you something else. Specifically what it says, another common type of misleading advertisement is bait and switch. In a bait and switch, an advertiser makes a particular claim about the price or availability of a product while never intending to actually sell the product or to sell it for a much higher price. When a customer responds to the advertisement, the seller exploits their interest to try to market them either a more expensive product or a different price than was advertised. Bait and switch advertising is illegal according to the FTC if the first contact or interview is secured by deception. In other words, if, for example, I see an ad that says, hey, there's a radio at Best Buy for $500. I don't know why you spend $500 on a radio, but say there's a radio for $500. You get there and someone's like, oh, you know what? We might have one for $300. And then he comes back and says, actually, no, we only have the one for $500. That's not bait and switch. You came there, your initial contact was being sold for something for $500 and then being told later that there was something maybe cheaper and then being switched up back to that $500 one. That's not bait and switch. That's just, just miscommunication. But if you're promised that $300 radio and you get in there and they essentially say, well, we only have this $500 radio, and they've made no disclaimer of while supplies last or things like that. If they say, we promise, we guarantee you a $300 radio, and you get there and they're like, sorry, we only have $500 radios here, that's bait and switch. And like I said, it's not necessarily a different product, it can be a different price. In any way, if the original advertised, environment, the event that is advertised to you turns out to be something else, that's usually what you call a bait and switch. Quality or origin deceptions. While it's generally deceptive for an advertisement to mislead consumers about the price or availability, advertisements cannot make statements about the quality or origin that cannot be substantiated. For example, an advertisement cannot claim the product was made in the United States if it was actually manufactured in another country. Similarly, advertisements may be deceptive if the product has defects in the quality that are not fully disclosed, or if the advertisements imply the product may be used for a purpose it was not adequately designed for. A couple things. First of all, companies get around this one very, very obviously. If you have bought an iPhone any point in the last several years, you open the box and the first thing you read is designed by Apple in California. Designed. Wasn't built by Apple in California. No. It was built in a factory in China because labor costs are low there and they're a business and they need to make money. So yes, they built it in China. It was made in China, but it was designed by Apple in California. That's their way of getting around it. That is not a necessarily a quality deception. If we're playing word games, it's equivocation because it makes people think that it was made in America or it's somehow an American product. No, it's just another product. Personally, I think the made in America thing oftentimes used as a little bit of a hype tool when it doesn't need to be, but whatever. However, another thing on here, video games, right? Obviously, you might think that, an advertisement might be deceptive if the product has defects in quality that are not fully disclosed, right? And you think, hey, I bought this video game under the pretense that it would work properly, and it does not. So here's the thing, is that usually in the EULAs or the end user license agreement of any video game that you usually blanket agree to when you purchase the game and actually, start playing it, is that they have a thing of that the product is purchased as is. And what as is means is that with all flaws, bugs, any other problems, you're taking it as it is, and people just usually accept it. There have been a few cases where quality or origin deception claims have been made against video games, or bait and switch for that matter. No Man's Sky was one where people actually tried to press charges as to the veracity of the claims, and unfortunately it was made in a European court, and the European court did not find fault with Hello Games, despite the fact that there was actually a laundry list of actual claims made by the developer of the game leading up to launch that turned out to be 100% false. It was a complete lie and a scam, but the software in general is very difficult for a lot of governments to enforce because they're oftentimes operating on antiquated systems when it comes to that. Anyway, false environment claims. The FTC cautions businesses against the use of misleading environmental claims. Terms like recycled, biodegradable, compostable, environmental friendly should be substantiated by competent and reliable scientific evidence, according to the FTCs. These claims can be deceptive even if some part of the product carries an environmental attribute but major components do not. For example, it is deceptive for a box of foil to be advertised as recyclable even though the foil itself is not. The foil is considered a major component of the product, so the advertiser should clearly disclose that on the box. Only the box is recyclable. That's kind of those are your big four deceptive advertising pieces, right? Those are what people will commonly see. Now, all of those are actually things that you can take to court. If you have a clear case of that actually being done, you can take that to court. You can take that to file an FTC complaint if you're in the US. Can't remember the actual there is actually EU bodies similar to the FTC that also similarly litigates issues like that and actually will investigate it, and if it's found to be true, they will actually, depending on the severity of it, can have a severity of consequences for that, up to including their actual product being being banned and or removed from shelves, that sort of thing, recalled, etc. Now, that's where we get out of the obvious. That's things that just smack you in the face of completely illegal, right? After that, we start getting a bit nuanced, right? We start getting into the subtle shades of gray of, is this, illegal? No. Is it unethical? Maybe. We'll call it ethically questionable. It's not 100% unethical, but we're not gonna say it's necessarily ethical. It's kind of in that middle ground in between. Now, the first thing that anybody should realize when they are talking about advertising, especially nowadays, and this is in general a lot of PR work, it all operates based upon usually red herring fallacies, which red herring fallacies is a subtype of fallacies of relevance, and essentially the whole basis of red herrings is to deceive you. Like a red herring was that term comes from a way that they used to train hunting dogs. A red herring was a fish that was designed to throw the dog's scent off of what they were actually hunting. The whole purpose was to distract them away from their goal, right? If you're trying to go for a duck and I've got a fish over here, if you're a well-trained hunting dog, you should ignore the fish and continue going for the bird, right? So, and that's essentially where a lot of these go. However, when we start getting into the subtypes of red herrings, this is where you can kind of see a lot of the tactics that get used. Now, and this is especially done in this section here, the appeal to emotion. An argument is made due to the manipulation of emotions rather than the use of valid reasoning. And we've touched on other ones in the past, but a lot of these guys on here appeal to fear, an argument made by increasing fear and prejudice towards the opposing side. It's not necessarily opposing side. It's increasing fear and prejudice towards something, right? Make you afraid of something in order to win you over to something, right? Appeal to flattery. It's essentially flattering the subject of it to gather support. Appeal to pity. An attempt made to induce pity to sway opponents. you guys ever seen an ASPCA or the Christian Children's Fund, where they show like sad dogs or starving children, those are appeal to pity advertisements. They're trying to make you feel bad, feel guilty, so you give them money. Now, it's not necessarily to say that what they do is a bad thing. As far as I'm aware, the ASPCA seems to be an up-and-up organization. I don't know about a lot of those like Christian Children's Fund or whatever. I've heard some mixed things about various African donation things. Moral of the story is, before you donate money, research the source of what you're donating, and if all else fails, make sure you stick to the established channels like Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, those sorts of guys. You know, just do your homework before you donate. That's not the point here. The point is that the advertisements that they use are very often appeal to pities, right? They're trying to make you feel bad in order to win your support. Appeal to ridicule is an argument made by presenting the opponent's argument in a way that makes it appear ridiculous. And these are very often seen in your infomercials. Appeal to ridicule is used in infomercials where you will see a segment of someone using a competing product in a completely absurd way. Right? This is where you see, like, they're trying to advertise a special egg cooker, and they show someone saying, "Oh, don't you hate it how eggs stick to a pan?" And they show someone with this charred mess of an egg stuck to the pan, and they're trying to scrape it off with a Teflon pan with a metal spatula, and you're just cringing like, that's not how any of this works at all. That's appeal to ridicule. You're trying to make the competitor product or the product that you're trying to replace look ridiculous, right? In order to make your product seem more smart and skilled. Appeal to spite is an argument made through exploiting people's bitterness or spite towards something, not necessarily an opposing party. These are mostly phrased towards an argument that someone might be making, you versus another person. But in general, in advertisements, you'll see a lot of appeal to spites, where you'll see, I'm trying to think of one offhand that would kind of fit that, but there's a lot of those out there where you essentially will often see it phrased in such a way to where you are asked to do something because something else is bad, right? You know, like, oh, don't you, like, there's all the, like, a good example of an appeal to spite is usually used in politics, where, you know, this politician did this bad thing, so you should therefore donate to this fund or support this cause because this other person is bad. The reason why it's a problem is not necessarily saying, like, for example, oh my gosh, this person's stealing from somebody, they should be locked up. No, that's not an appeal to spite. Appeal to spite is whenever you're asked to do something that is not necessarily relevant to what you're bitter towards. It's when someone's manipulating your bitterness in order to get it. A good example might be EA, right? EA is very bitter towards, or people are very bitter towards EA from Battlefront 2. This is an example that's very relevant here. After Battlefront 2 was released, you saw several other AAA publishers making sly comments about their lack of loot boxes, or how they don't do loot boxes, or so on and so forth. In many cases, it was a complete lie. They still actually did have loot boxes in some games or another. The point is that they were all trying to appeal to spite. Hey, you should like us because we're not EA. That's an appeal to spite, right? That's a very clear example of it, and a lot of AAA publishers did. A lot of indie publishers did it well. Hell, Zachary Levi even kind of sort of did it. Not really. Whenever he was at the Video Game Awards, when he made jokes, he was just making jokes at their expense. God, words. Ugh. But the point is that is in general what an appeal to spite is. Wishful thinking is a decision made according to what might be pleasing to imagine rather than according to evidence or reason. For example, that picture of that McDonald's cheeseburger. You really hope that one day that cheeseburger actually looks like what it is in the picture, don't you? Never is. Never is going to be. Or that you, you know, if you actually were to think about it, when you want to buy something in the gaming world, a good example would be a lot of the marketing done by video game makers, right? What they'll say in the console world is they will actually make claims about what it could possibly do. For example, the Xbox One X could possibly play games at 4K. It could possibly play games at 60 frames per second. Is it going to play most games at 4K resolutions? No. Is it going to play most games at 60 frames per second? No. And to be honest with you, most people playing Xboxes don't even care. There's just a very small minority of people that they hype on those specs, and they're hype guys. Which leads us into our next segment. Influencer marketing. Yay, influencer marketing. I talked about this, I think, briefly when I was talking about games marketing. And we're not going to stay on this too long. But influencer marketing is something that, you know, is not inherently deceptive. It can be when we talk about things like the EA Game Changers, which are paid hype men for EA that will claim the game is awesome, and you believe them because you think they're just normal guys, so you're taking it as friendly recommendation rather than a paid endorsement. And that's something that's a key step failure in what I think is should be more established ethics in there. Obviously, we've had several complaints come up of influencers kind of overstepping themselves, and I think that we could help with a little bit more rules, but influencer marketing is a big area where potentially you could have deceptive advertising. It's not inherently. However, one area that is very much deceptive advertising that is used so frequently around the video game industry is the bullshot. The bullshot is not unlike our first guy here when we talked about these guys here, right? So crop it and frame it, where we just more or less make the shot look really good by, you know, cutting out extraneous information and making it look like the pool's bigger or that it's sunnier or whatever. Zoom it, where you zoom in on something to make it look like it's a more scenic thing, or that you Photoshop out unwanted things like, I don't know, screen tearing or artifacts in the video game image. And then the wide angle trick, and this is done especially in sports games, where they get the camera way low down on the ground, zoomed up at the guys shooting at the basketball hoop or catching that football pass or kicking that soccer ball, right? And all of those are done to kind of give it that more cinematic feel, make it look more exciting. Those are all bull shots. And it's not coincidence that bullshot sounds as a word very, very similar to the word bullshit, because they almost always are. It's a video game screenshot that's doctored, sometimes to an extreme degree, in order to make the game look incredible. Bullshots can have a live action version of what's known as pre-rendered demos or pre-rendered trailers. You'll see this a lot at like E3 conferences, where they're announcing a game and they will show you a trailer of that game and you're like, holy shit, this game looks amazing. I can't believe this is a game that's real. And then the game comes out and you're like, wow, this looks absolutely nothing like what I saw at that conference. That happens a lot, right? Because especially when you're dealing with E3, well, E3 does have normal people going to it now and a lot more than it used to be. E3, like CES and other conferences and expos like that, are designed more for shareholders and increasing investments. They're not really for consumers so much as they are for investors, right? So essentially all those things are not necessarily meant for the purpose of actually selling you a product. They're meant to say, hey investors, we're exciting and we're doing new things. You should give us your money so we can continue to do these nice things and sell you things and make money. So an investor doesn't really care about bullshots or doesn't care about those pre-rendered trailers because they're not really, they're not going to play the game. They just want to know that the game will sell. And by making a marketable experience out of it, that tells investors that the game will sell. For example, one that's going to be coming up here soon, and I want prediction number one. We saw, I think, E3 a couple of years ago. Maybe it was last year. I don't remember. I get years confused nowadays. But an example of that would be Anthem, the upcoming game from BioWare, which, if you notice, holy shit, the trailer they showed looked amazing. The facial details, the graphics, everything looks so pretty. Mark my words, there is a very high probability it will not look that good when you actually get your hands on it. The reason why is because that was a pre-rendered trailer, still fairly early on in the development, all things considered, because they were not done with it yet. There's still chances for changes to be made, and for all we know, all the development up to that point was scrapped and they started all over again, you know, like they did with Mass Effect Andromeda, and kind of like what Bungie did with Destiny 2. Wouldn't be unheard of. Anyway, moving on. Bullshots are very much a another form of it. Now, here's where we get into kind of the trickier side. Say you've already put out your advertisements. You've already been called on being deceptive. Now what do? As a corporation, do you just say, hey, you know what, you're right, we lied, we're sorry guys, we want to do better? No, it would cost a corporation especially, it would cost far more money for them to ever admit wrongdoing in such a fashion, as opposed to trying to engage in more deceptive tactics. So these are the 10 Ds of opposition tactics, which are essentially the ways that a corporate PR firm is going to try to make something go away. Now, if any of you noticed on one of the episodes of the Pixel Crashers podcast some weeks ago, we talked about a specific tactic called make the outrage outdated. That falls under the delay tactic. Well, sort of. It's delay, deceive. It's several of them all rolled into one. But these 10 Ds of opposition tactics are deflect, delay, deny, discount, deceive, divide, dulcify, if I can talk, discredit, destroy, and deal. A lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. If someone leverages a claim that you're doing something wrong or you have done something wrong, deflect is make someone look at something else. Move it to the side. Hey, what about that over there? Deflected, right? Delay, if someone's wanting, like, essentially in the sense of the make the outrage outdated, that's where they will make some changes to get people talking about another topic so they can delay the criticism. They can put distance out from that criticism, cool the crowd off, so to speak, get the lynch mob to drop their pitchforks and torches for a little bit and delay them. They could deny it, outright lie about lying. It happens a lot. They could discount it. They could, which is also known as minimize it. They could make the problem seem not as big as it actually is. They could just say, oh, you know, it's just, this is the little thing, no big deal. You know, we just wanted to give you guys player choice. We wanted to give you a sense of pride and accomplishment. Yes, I know, you all know those phrases from EA and their damage control of Battlefront 2. They could continue to deceive you by adding in more lies to another thing, like, well, you know, everybody does it. Everybody doesn't do it. Or, no, they're not even in there at all. They could just outright lie in many ways. This is the key one on here, though. And this is one that is done most frequently of all tactics that are done in deceptive advertising damage control. Divide. Very often, they will attempt to divide a player base by essentially highlighting differences between those that generally like the product and those that do not. Most commonly, the way they'll do this is through a sock puppet. You never hear about this term, and it's not very often heard of, because being able to prove that a company is utilizing sock puppets is very hard. It's very difficult to prove that someone's using a sock puppet because they usually cover their tracks fairly well. It is generally used as a last-ditch effort, right? And my major problem with it is that whenever you actually get a claim about a sock puppet, it's very often that you don't actually hear what it's actually being a sock puppet about, right? It's usually that they're just so angry about it. So, a specific what I am assuming, because this is too... the chances of this being a sock puppet are exceedingly high. This was in the aftermath of Battlefront 2's release, so this article is a bit old. This is from, I don't know. In any case, earlier this week, a man with game dev at EA in his Twitter profile wrote that he received death threats from angry Star Wars Battlefront 2 fans. His story was covered by news outlets like USA Today, the BBC, and Yahoo. Vice wrote an editorial about it. CNBC ran a headline about it, and the tweet was retweeted by hundreds of people. There's just one lingering question. Does he actually work for Electronic Arts? With around 5,000 followers on Twitter, Big Sean 66 doesn't have a particularly huge audience or platform. But when he tweeted Monday that he was up to that he was up to 7 death threats. That he was up to 7 death threats with over 1,600 individual personal attacks now, he went viral. Gaming and mainstream outlets picked up on his story, writing about how the outrage over Star Wars Battlefront 2's microtransactions led to gamers threatening Big Sean 66's life. Hundreds of developers and journalists also quoted him, sent sympathies, and talked about the incident on Twitter, condemning those who felt the need to send death threats to Big Sean 66. Yet, after speaking with several current EA employees, cross-referencing the details with LinkedIn and Facebook pages and reaching out to Big Sean 66, I've become convinced that he does not actually work for EA. In fact, since I sent him several messages yesterday and this morning, he changed his Twitter profile to remove all mentions of EA. Yeah. EA has said it has not been able to confirm that Big Sean 66 works for the company. This morning, the publisher sent me a statement. We take threats against our employees very seriously. Our first concern is ensuring the safety and support for our people, and since the reports first surfaced, we've been investigating this internally. At this time, we're not able to verify this individual's claim of employment at EA, nor the threats made against him. When I first saw Big Sean 66 Twitter account on Monday, I thought something seemed off. His tweets appeared too bizarre and unprofessional to be coming from a real employee, and he would publicly comment on subjects I couldn't imagine anyone at EA would ever dare talking about on the record. For example, in response to my story last month about the collapse of Visceral Games, Big Sean 66 wrote, "Situation was clearly a bit more complex than simply EA hates single-player games." So, and he goes on about skepticism even more on here, but the point is that it would be easy to say that it was just some fanboy trying to be cool on the internet by trying to insinuate. And a lot of his claims, he didn't necessarily directly say he was a developer for EA, but then a lot of times he was actually directly saying that he worked for EA, right? So in a lot of cases, and there was a lot of times where there was banter between him and other EA devs, which they wouldn't necessarily know who he is. The company is pretty big. There's a lot of departments. They may not know who another person is. Hey, it's a fellow EA guy. I don't know you, but okay, cool. The point is that what this more than likely was a sock puppet, based upon the manner in which he quickly redacted the claim of working at EA. And then after the fact, EA washing their hands of the situation very quickly in a very carefully prepared statement that made sure to enunciate the claim of death threats, tells me that it was more than likely a sock puppet. It was designed to generate buzz over the death threats received by the developers of Battlefront 2, which I have no doubt there were death threats made to those developers because, well, fan bases tend to be pretty rabid and passionate about what they love. Star Wars fans are probably some of the most passionate and rabid fans that you can find anywhere, right? So when you royally fuck up that bad and take a giant piss in the face of Star Wars fans, oh yeah, they are definitely going to threaten your life. And it is not right. It never is. Never. There are also people that are not Star Wars fans that will make death threats. Why? Because they're trolls and they feed on that negativity. And they will look for situations where they can step in, throw down a bunch of Molotov cocktails, and dip out and just watch the chaos ensue. And those happen. And they will throw out pejoratives that every pejorative they think will offend you. They don't care if it's racist, if it's homophobic, if it's sexist, if it's whatever. They will throw out every pejorative just to try to get you going. Both those groups, both the trolls and the passionate fans, are very likely to send death threats over that, and it's not right. However, the fact that EA was able to temporarily distract the conversation away from the, hey, you greedy bastards, you put glorified gambling at the core of a Star Wars game, of a video game. Doesn't matter what video game it was. You put gambling at the core of it. They were trying to do everything they could to try to, just dodge, duck, dive, dip, up, and dodge. Trying to do whatever they could to take the heat off a little bit. That's why I think that was an example of a sock puppet. It was a fake account that was more than likely just made as a means to kind of puppets some things. It was probably just some dude making comments on things. His profile may not have really said that he worked for EA until recently, but there's no way to know, and there's no way to see now. You can't track the changes someone makes to their profile on Twitter. It says what it says right now. You can screen cap it if you look at it right now, and then reference it later if they change it. But anyway, so that's your big thing on sock puppets, and what sock puppets do, and in this example, what that person was attempting to do by bringing up the topic of death threats against developers. That's a very well documented and published and very heated topic that will divide any community the moment you bring up death threats. I even had like a minor back and forth today on Twitter with someone who I actually like. They posted an article from somebody, I think it was the head developer or one of the developers that worked on Hand of Fate, posted an article about threats to developers, and this person like tweeted out about it, how it was mandatory reading, and I was like, yeah, it is good reading, and threatening developers is objectively wrong until it's used as a means to try to deflect criticism. And that's where I have a problem with it. And that's what sock puppets do. They will divide a player base. They will divide consumer bases. The whole purpose of them is intended to sow discord by making it look like there's this random fake non-existent person, this social media account of someone who may or may not even exist, will then spew out something to try to get the opposing group to disagree. And that's all they need to do. Just get you to disagree a little bit, and then your attention is diverted, and that's really all that's necessary. Now moving on, we have Dulcify, which is essentially where you try to it's a fancy way of saying kind of to pacify. It's something that's a measure that's done to make you think that they agree with you, but they're really not doing a whole lot. This is another key part of the make the outrage outdated example. For example, with Battlefront 2, when it was first launched, what they first did was they made some minor balance changes to the amount of grinding required in order to unlock heroes, right? It did not address the problem, which was that loot boxes were the core of the game's progression mechanic, which is something that's not easy to fix. They would have had to pull Batman Arkham Knight, pull the game off the shelf, and completely re-engineer it. Like, there's no way to separate out loot boxes out of that system. They are deeply, deeply ingrained into it. The whole game is built on them, right? So they thought they would dulcify it, right? They want to, hey, we adjusted the balance so it's not as much grind. And then they did that again. They reduced the grind even more. And they said, oh, hey, we reduced the grind. And then the final act of dulcification was that they then turned off the money being able to, or you being able to buy crystals, which are the real world currency version in that game. So you could only grind for stuff. You could not buy power in the game anymore, which was just meant to dulcify the criticism of it being pay to win. Well, it can't be pay to win if you can't pay anything. Unfortunately, it doesn't really answer any criticism whatsoever. It just pretty much it's just meant to dulcify the crowd and make the uproar die down. And largely that seems to have worked. The uproar largely did die down after that fact because there was not much else to be done. That was the extent of the outrage that you could possibly muster. The problem hasn't been solved, and EA will almost certainly try to put loot box gambling in their next game, and will probably also be in Anthem, but that's not the topic today. The next thing they'll do is discredit. And this comes into going back to our list of fallacies up here. This is our first guy on here. AdHominem, which means to the man. To the man. AdHominem is a very common argumentative tactic where someone will attempt to attack someone instead of answering that person's argument. In the case of advertisement, whenever someone places a criticism against your advertisement or accuses your advertisement of being deceptive, the manner in which you most effectively would utilize AdHominem is by poisoning the well. Discredit them. And essentially by poisoning the well, and this is a very common one on here, if I claim, if for example, you tried to sell me Battlefront 2 and I said, oh, hey, that seems like a fair and balanced game. You're like, absolutely, it's totally fair, balanced, and it's a lot of fun. And I play the game and I'm like, this is neither fair, balanced, nor fun for me. And you're like, well, that's just because you're a hater. What you've done there is you have essentially presented adverse information about me in an attempt to, potentially adverse information. It doesn't even have to be true. Just adverse information of any kind. It could be a complete lie. The whole point is that it's designed to discredit me. Most commonly, this is very often used in politics. This is used all the time in politics, where they will attempt to claim this person, likes Nazis and wants to kill your babies. Aren't they bad? They try to really elicit those major emotional responses, usually with poisoning the well. And with advertisement criticism, it's no different. It's usually calling people haters, right? And you will see a lot of game developers, game publishers that will call people haters. And unfortunately, one of the games that I was most deeply involved with, the developers tended to feel a lot of the fans feel them calling people with negative views on the game haters. They tended to fuel a lot of that poisoning the well, and that was kind of a very unfortunate, but that was what they were really going for on how to as a means of damage controlling a lot of the negative criticism of the game, which was very valid. The next one is destroy. This would be something that is very valid to EA. That's just pretty much where if someone is leveraging a criticism of them, you destroy them. You absolutely destroy them. This can be done with lawsuits, financially destroying them. Like say if someone were to allege that your advertisement is false and you sue them for defamation. As a major corporation, you sue them for defamation. You don't have to be right. The threat of destruction financially oftentimes can make some people back off, and that's the idea. And then the last one, this is the step that they go towards if all else has failed, and that's where they deal. They'll try to make a deal. They'll try to compromise, and actually usually the compromise is usually what's known as a Pyrrhic compromise. It's usually comes at so great of a cost that it's not even worth it to you. But it's a compromise, and it's at some point they're actually heeding your claim, just usually not in any significant or several way. But in any case, those are actually very common. And this is if you take away anything from the deceptive advertising thing, aside from the ones that are actually illegal. You should always know your rights and know if someone's actually ripping you off and doing something illegal. But always know these type of tactics here. These opposition tactics, another term you could say opposition tactics are damage control. These are the 10 Ds of damage control. Deflect, delay, deny, discount, deceive, divide, dulcify, discredit, destroy, and deal. The 10 Ds of damage control. Right? That's one of the biggest things you can take away on here. And when you are seeing someone that is talking about a video game, and unfortunately the most common form of advertising that these corporations get now is social media advertising. And what social media advertising means is that you don't necessarily have to advertise. You get regular old people to advertise for you. And the key on there is that if I can get someone, which I will commonly use the pejorative fanboy to call this person such, is someone who is obstinately blind or refuses to acknowledge criticism of something to which they are a fan of, right? Or fan, whatever. For example, like you have your console fanboys, right? Someone who, or a PC fanboy or whatever, a platform where they see that platform as the only correct platform to buy, and any criticism of that platform is in some way, they'll use one of these 10 Ds in order to make that criticism go away, and they will simultaneously attack and criticize opposing platforms. Usually they'll go for the weaker of the platform. So for example, if it's a PC or a PS4 fan or a PlayStation fanboy, they will attack Xbox. Xbox will oftentimes attack PlayStation, and so on, is because they want to go after the weaker, the low-hanging fruit very often, as a means to make you focus over there and not look at what they're a fanboy of. Those are all based upon PR tactics in advertising. That's the key of advertising, and it's a very deceptive trick that they get people to buy into a lot of those factors. But it is still something to bear in mind of when you're going to buy a product and you're trying to do research. And we talked about being a good consumer, and you're doing your research on here. You have to be mindful that some of the, like one of the steps of being a good consumer is looking around, seeing what other people have to say, see professional reviews, see user reviews, right? If you see a user review, and this is your big key to know where to discount a user review, is if it's using one of these tactics in the review towards other reviewers. If a reviewer like me, professional or otherwise, if they say at any point in time, these other people are wrong, keywords there, these other people are wrong, this game is fine because of this. That right there tells me that the person is not in a kind of same way on there. I can disagree with you. We can have different opinions on a game, especially games. They're a subjective medium, like they're art, right? You and I are not going to like the same things. That is silly to assume. However, for me to call you wrong because you don't agree with me, come on, that's silly. That's not how someone reviews a game. If I'm reviewing a game, and as I noted on the ethics of review, is tell people, firstly, do you recommend it? Do you not recommend it? Here's some pros and here's some cons. That way, a person reading that review knows off the bat, hey, this person recommends it, and here's why they recommend it. But here's some other things to keep in mind that I might find more important. That's the way to be fair in reviewing. But if you watch out and you notice that there are some people that will attack other reviewers and use some of these 10 tactics over here. Yeah, there we go. Pointing in the right direction. These 10 tactics over here, right? And they're using any one of these as a means of trying to deflect criticism or to make criticism go away. You know that they're probably not as trustworthy of a source as someone who is not. Even if they're saying the exact same thing, the person who is using these tactics is the one who I would be more leery of. Whereas the person who's like, yes, this criticism is valid. This criticism is not valid, and here's why. You can counter criticism without having to actually resort to any of these tactics. Countering criticism is perfectly valid. However, deflecting it, delaying it, denying it discounting it, making it seem like it's smaller than it is, not countering the criticism and giving reasons why, but actually discounting it and making it seem like it's not a big deal, trying to divide the people criticizing you, dulcifying them by making a hollow change, discrediting them, destroying them, or trying to make some kind of deal, hollow deal with them, a pyrrhic deal. Those are not means by which you counter criticism. Those are means by which you try to lie to people. Anyway, so that's all that fun. Let's get that nixed out of here. In any case, that is kind of the, I guess you could say, the major summary of my big point on fake advertising. We love all that deceptive advertising goodness. On a side note, depending on how my schedule works, I may or may not be streaming on Friday here. We'll have to see how it goes. I've been wanting to get into more streaming, unfortunately Monday, and I didn't tell you guys this. I said I would talk about it. So here's on the kind of personal note of things that happened. The reason why I didn't stream on Monday is because I was freaking exhausted. Both actually tired from lack of sleep and exhausted emotionally, because one of our bunnies, one of our original bunnies, who is very near and dear to me, was on the brink of dying. She had what's known as it's called GI hypomobility. It's where their actual digestive tract starts to slow down, and if it stops, that's what's called GI stasis, and that's a death sentence. It's once the digestion stops, it's done. That's it. And we have actually lost another rabbit before who wasn't quite as endeared to us, because we just hadn't had her that long, and we didn't spot the signs of it quick enough because we were not nearly as experienced with bunnies at that time. But there was other factors in that as well. But the point is that we lost a bunny to that before, and it was, even not being that close to that bunny, it was a heart-wrenching experience having to, it's essentially a slightly accelerated process to essentially watching someone die from a fight with cancer, or someone die from tuberculosis. They kind of literally waste away, they become very lethargic, and then eventually they just don't have the energy to move anymore and just die. And it's heart-wrenching to watch. It's like, what can you do? You know it's going to happen. You do the best you can. And that's what the reality that we were facing on Monday, whenever her digestion was slowing down. She was having gas problems and that sort of thing. And it was like, oh, shit, this is going to be rough. We were bracing for this like monumental nuclear warhead going off. Fortunately enough, we were able to get medicine for her to get her digestive tract going again, and now she seems to be fairly much in the clear. She's still on some medication and stuff, but it was pretty rough on Monday. Like, whew, that was not a fun day, and I was like, listen, you don't want me on stream. I am in no condition to stream properly. I am so fucking done with the day. So that was why I didn't stream on Monday. It was bad. And I said I would tell people what was going on, and that was rough. There's no way to not paint that as a rough day. But everything's good now, so whew, dodged a bullet there. That was much better, but it was definitely rough. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a look at who's streaming now, so we can throw a host over to somebody. More than likely going to be our good buddy Psy16 streaming some Dragon Age Origin Awakenings, because awesome times. So let's go ahead and get over there and get him hosted. You guys want to say hi to him, feel free. We'll be back. Should be back on Friday, granted that no scheduling conflicts come up. Friday's been a rough day for me of late, so if I am not able to stream on Friday, I apologize. But we do have the Pixel Crashers podcast, actually the podcast this Saturday. But if you guys caught it on last Saturday, we're going to try to start having a get-together for all of the Pixel Crashers every Saturday. No matter what, we'll have the podcast one week and then just kind of a gaming get-together by everybody the opposite Saturday. And that should be a lot of fun for everybody. So anyway, I'm going to get off here, guys. Obviously, if you're not familiar with this, if you're watching this on VOD on YouTube or elsewhere, there's links down below for all the places you can find me. And you can also watch this stream live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on my Twitch channel, which the link will also be down below. I shouldn't say my Twitch channel, it's our Twitch channel, I guess. But, you know, whatever. In any case, you guys have a good night. We'll catch you next time. Have a lot of fun and be good to each other and keep your eyes open. Watch out for them 10Ds, right? 10Ds. Cheers.